So which boys are better then? Is it the standard Orc boys or the new Beast Snaggas? Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy focused 40k channel, where today we're going to try and answer one of the questions that I was most interested to see when I heard that Games Workshop was going to differentiate standard boys from these new Beast Snaggas. They're definitely going to be competing for the same battlefield role. At base, the vast majority of the unit is armed with exactly the same thing, the Slugger and Chopper, but they do have a different points cost profile and special rules, so I'm going to be really quite interested to see which one sees more play in games. In the video we'll talk about their differences in their base stat lines, compare their damage and durability versus a few different weapons and targets, and then talk about all the other factors that surround choosing one over the other, different limitations, options and stratagems that you can use on the units. So first up, when we're comparing the new Beast Snaggas to the regular Orcs, both are troops and both can be taken by any clan. I think there was some concern that the Beast Snaggas would either be locked to snake bites, or perhaps not receive clan cultures in the similar way, but you can indeed take things like Evil Sun or Bad Moon Beast Snaggas if you wanted to. Beast Snagga Boys are basically just a different troops choice with a slightly higher points cost, a few stat line improvements and in-baked special rules, and a bit more synergy with some of the other units and options throughout the codex. Currently, boys at base are now 9 points per model, movement 5 inches, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 5, strength 4, toughness 5, 1 wound, 2 attacks, leadership 6 and a 6+ armor save. Pretty similar to what we had before, to be honest, just with 1 extra pip of toughness. They gain that AP-1 on their choppers and some changes to the shooters, and they can still be taken in squads of 10 to 30. I feel like out of taking either shooters or choppers, I think that we're going to see more people take choppers out of the two. Losing the assault special rule really was quite key for the shooters, and I'm not really sure that the extra shot at half range really makes up for it. Perhaps if you've got a better way of delivering them into Daka range, maybe a Troc, or you're using some shooting buffs like Bad Moons, but otherwise I feel like more people are going to slant towards the choppers, and that really does help put them in direct competition with these Beast Snaggas who can't take shooters. Beast Snaggas on the other hand are 11 points per model, so basically an increase of 22% on the standard boys, and on the most basic level they gain strength 5 from strength 4, really quite meaningful against anything that's toughness 4, 5 or 8. They gain a 6+ invul, making them hardier against anything that's AP-1 or better, and the Beast Snagga special rule allows them to get +1 to hit against monsters and vehicles, making them again a bit more dangerous against those targets and melee. So those are the core differences. There are certainly other things to consider which we'll get onto, but first let's take a quick look at their damage and durability. So for damage I thought we'd compare two relatively similar mobs. The first one we have 11 Beast Snagga Boys with the Nob taking the Power Snapper that he gets for free, essentially a big chopper with AP-2. That would cost you 121 points, and we're going to be comparing that to 13 Orc Boys including a Nob with a big chopper and a regular chopper. I think the big chopper is a pretty decent upgrade in terms of the damage that you get for the points, and pretty nice that you get the extra regular chopper attack on that for free. That scores 122 points, so only 1 point difference between the two. In general, when you do the maths of one round of combat from these guys, typically the Beast Snaggas will win on damage output for anything that's toughness 4, 5 or 8, or anything that happens to be a vehicle or monster, so they get that +1 to hit. If none of those things are the case, then the normal boys win out. Taking a few example targets here, for example the normal boys will kill 15 guard, where the Beast Snaggas will kill only 13. Against Space Marine Intercessors it's around 8.5 wounds for the Snaggas, 7.5 for the regular boys, both the big chopper and power snapper coming into play there. Perhaps the biggest difference is against Gravis armor, where having strength 5 really helps as you're not wounding them on 5s, and then there's a small difference on toughness 7 vehicles as well, though the difference would be far more marked if we took it against toughness 8. I'd say averaging out on targets, the Beast Snaggas for the points get around about 10 to 15% more damage, which is a small amount better than the regular boys, though not absolutely enormous. If we move on to durability, this little table shows the amount of hits needed to kill the whole unit. Again, we're comparing the same mobs as previously. We still have given the Nob the big chopper on the boys squad, though if we did want to sacrifice a little bit of damage output for more toughness, you could just leave that off and the boys' numbers would be very slightly better. Basically, I'd say for damage output, the only real difference is whether or not that invul save comes into play. Against something that's AP0 like lasguns, the Orc Boys do win out by a fair amount. For example, 43 lasgun shots are needed to down those 11 Beast Snaggas, whereas you'd need 50 if you were firing at the regular boys. but the Beast Snaggas do win out slightly if they're targeted by anything that's AP-1 or better, such as the bolt rifles, heavy bolters, or any heavier guns than those. However, for the points it's really not a big durability increase. There's almost nothing in it between them and the regular boys, so overall I will put this down as a win for the regular Orks. They're a little bit tougher against anything that's AP0 or mortal wounds, and they're more or less even with anything that's AP-1 or better. I would bear in mind as well that if you're investing in a cheap HQ, you could protect the normal boys with a custom force field. If you took say 3 big mobs of Orks, you could provide that protection for less than a point per model, as well as the small bonus of having the fighty mech around as well, who can lend a bit of damage output too. So damage and durability wise, I would say that the Beast Snaggas have a small victory on the damage output front, and the regular boys have a slight win in terms of durability. It is quite nice to see that both of them do seem quite usable, and I'm very happy to see that there isn't one that's just clearly the better choice all the time. Sometimes Games Workshop seem to be really good at balancing similar units, sometimes much less so. Just to round up though, let's talk about some of the other good reasons to bring either boys or Beast Snaggas. Firstly, with regular boys, I would say that they can get at least a fair bit of the advantages of Beast Snaggas by using the Goth's clan trait for +1 strength on the charge and custom force fields. Obviously the custom force field is an investment, and the Beast Snaggas can be Goths as well, but I'd say most of the time going from a jump from strength 5 to strength 6 is a little bit less important than going from strength 4 to strength 5. Of course it depends what you're fighting, and both of them are good advantages still. I do think standard chopper boys are perhaps the strongest option, but if you are playing a bit more of a shooty orc list, having the options for things like big shooters, rockets, or taking shooters on the mob can be pretty handy, and also perhaps having a little bit more flexibility on the nob's equipment if you either want to give him a big chopper, a power claw, or various combi weapons. Depending on what you're planning to achieve with the mob, some of those might be a good idea. Boys can also use the tank buster bomb stratagem where Beast Snaggas can't, and that could very easily either catch up or outweigh their damage output against hard vehicles. It's 1 command point to make a single attack, and you get 2d3 mortal wounds on the vehicle if it hits. You can re-roll that with a CP, so that could be quite a reliable 2d3 mortal wounds if you really need to melt something really tough like a dreadnought perhaps. Definitely a nice cost-effective one in the right circumstances. Otherwise, the boys can use some of those specialist mobs, like that quite powerful looking truck boys one, to charge after you've moved your truck. You can get them all the way up to really big mobs of between 10 and 30, so if you just want to cram the maximum amount of boys into one squad, then these standard boys are going to do you better than the Beast Snaggas, which are capped at 20, though I would bear in mind sometimes you might struggle to get them all into combat. And finally, I have heard a few people criticising the aesthetic of the Beast Snaggas. I think the models are really well executed, but they don't necessarily fit in with every Orc force's aesthetic. They definitely fit in a bit better with Snakebites than quite a few of the other clans. If we look at the Beast Snaggas though, then they've got quite a lot of other positives too. That power snapper being included in the knob for free is really good value. If it was just an option that you could take, it would definitely be worth a 5-point upgrade. The Beast Snaggas have a fair few more stratagems, though they do all cost 2 CP. They can use that Trans-Orc Physiology stratagem, the one that only allows them to be wounded on a 4+, and that could make them more durable if they get hit by something really hard hitting. Good against anything that's strength 6 or higher, but could also be used to cheat mechanics such as the ones that wound you on 2s automatically, or armies that get +1 to wound like Blood Angels. I think it could be good value, but at 2 CP it's certainly not free, and using it a few times will certainly trade out for other options that you could have used those command points on. Otherwise they can get another melee flex against vehicles, getting a +1 to wound against them for 2 CP, and potentially they could try and annoyingly lock a vehicle in close combat, again for 2 command points to use their Snagga grapple. That will allow vehicles to not be able to fall back on the roll of a 4+. It seems they're not really restricted with any transport options within the Orc Codex, but they do actually get access to the Kill Rig and Hunter Rig, which regular boys can't ride in. Both of those seem quite efficient, so that could be a draw if you want to run them. And in transport vehicles anyway, it's quite good value to get a lot more melee power on just a few bodies. Then you can cram in the maximum amount of fightiness into a transport vehicle, which you're already paying for a premium to deliver the unit. Finally, while they can make use of synergies from the rest of the Orc Boy characters, if you're running a Beast Boss or the Were Boys, some of their buffs only work on the Beast Snaggas and don't work on standard Orcs. So say if you were bringing that new Mozrog Scragbab model along, it might be a bit more sensible to run Beast Snaggas alongside him so he can buff them with his +1 to hit. Overall though, I think there are quite a few advantages and disadvantages to bringing the two units. So after looking at all that, is there a clear winner out of this? And I'd argue probably not. Both units do remain competitively viable. Damage and durability seems at least fairly well balanced. Beast Snaggas get a touch more damage but a touch less durability unless you're investing command points in them. But then boys can pick up quite a lot of the benefits either from a custom force field or the Goths clan. Boys have the options for shooters, larger more powerful mobs, and truck boys, as well as the base unit being a bit cheaper as well if you did just want a minimum sized unit to hold objectives or something, where Beast Snaggas have slightly better stratagem access, can use the hunter rig and kill rig, and synergy with some of the new characters. Overall, I think there's certainly pros and cons to both, and I think that that's quite a good thing as an Orc player. It means that you can pick the right tool for the job, or just if you happen to have loads of one of the types of boys and not the other, you don't really need to feel too bad about not going out and buying the other type of boy to make your list more competitive. Obviously this is a bit of an early take though. It'll be interesting to see what people gravitate towards in their strongest lists, and maybe we could re-examine this subject at a later date. In any case, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Which is your favourite boys? Are they the regular boys or are they the Beast Snaggas? Which ones are you theorising around at the moment? If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, or I'll certainly keep the regular videos coming. I'm hoping to make quite a few Orc videos to go along with all the cool new stuff that came out in the Orc Codex. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos lately, I would just like to mention that the Auspex Tactics Patreon page exists. That's what allows me to keep on making these videos quite so regularly, and if you are enjoying a lot, any support is enormously appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, such as seeing certain new videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry to the regular prize giveaways with the chance to win some really big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.